We're just outside the gate. We're at the City of Delaware water treatment plant. The cool part about this plant that you haven't seen is that it has both surface water and groundwater feeds. Additionally, it has ultrafiltration, nanofiltration, which are membrane technology. So you haven't seen those either. So it'll be exciting to go through it. So let's get through these gates and talk to the super next. I was telling Calvin our way in, this one's unique because you have two water sources. I mean, the ones we've done so far is just groundwater only. This is where we kind of migrate over to a little bit of surface water, but talk about some of that. I don't think there's too many plants in Ohio.
One of the main reasons why we went with this kind of treatment, back in the first round of the enhanced surface water treatment rule, every surface water plant in the country sampled their raw surface water. And they had 4 bin classes for crypto and giardia. Bin 1 is you have nothing. Bin 2, you have a little bit. Bin 3, you got a little bit more. Bin 4, even more than that. So what that meant is more and more treatment. We were placed in bin 2. So geographically here, us, the city of Westerville, and the Dublin Road Water Plant in Columbus were the lucky ones that was placed in bin 2. So the EPA give you toolbox guidelines or toolbox. They give you a toolbox to pick from for treatment. One of the main reasons, for a plant this size, really it was the ultrafiltration filter, or GAC. Westerville here in our region, they chose GAC, where we chose,
which is
granular activated carbon.
Granular activated carbon.
The reason why we didn't go that route was it was just so expensive to regenerate. You had to buy that carbon every year, and when we got the calculator out, even when we replaced the membranes and more cost for energy and everything, it was still cheaper to go this route than GAC. You know, our plant is rated at 7, but really we've added
7 million gallons.
Yes, we've added 1 UF train since we started the plant, and really with the wasting rate and stuff that we have, this plant's really, we can only produce about 6 right now, even though the rating is 7. In order to get the 7, we'll have to put in another UF train and another surface water RO train. After that, we can get the 7 million gallons.
What's your daily average then?
Right now, it's about 3.5.
Okay,
something like
so
that.
You got a little bit of capacity. Were you groundwater first and then surface, or were you always both?
In the early 90s, we drilled wells here. We just had wells that we used here on site for this well field. And it just intermixed in with the surface water, and then it was all treated as surface water.
Okay.
And what we did there was from the early 90s until 2014, that helped us keep under for nitrates. There's nothing you can chemically feed for nitrates, but blending the surface water and groundwater helped the nitrates get down below the 10 milligrams per liter, which is the limit.
Why don't you explain how even your wells vary from well to well as far as their chemistry goes?
It does. I mean, well, really, this field and the Penry field, they're similar. This is a limestone aquifer, so the water's very, very hard. You're talking excess of 600 parts hardness.
Gotcha.
We leave the plant our treatment goal is 150 or less. We average about 120. So the water's very, the water's very, very hard. Plus, there's a lot of iron in it.
Okay.
The iron rate's about 1.4 milligrams per liter. About 2.25, you'll have staining in your clothes and stuff from the iron. So it's very objectionable too. We don't have a lot of manganese, but we do have a lot of iron. So all the groundwater, 100% of it goes through a pressure filter where it's very low turbidity after that. And then about 50% goes through an RO and 50% goes around. The reason why, after the surface water, 100% goes through the UF and 95% goes through the RO. Basically, it's zero hardness. So in order to get our treatment goal of 150 or less, the water going around the groundwater membranes is how we get it up to our treatment goal of 150
Which
or less.
is unusual as well. Most people are just always working to get the water down.
Yes.
You guys are kind of, have full control of where you want it to land.
Well, and it's kind of like an ion exchange plant on the blending rate. We just adjust the blending rate to adjust our surface water hardness or our finished water hardness.
Nice. Talk about your wasting, because Calvin and I, we were reviewing this before we came here, and I said, you guys have the lagoons. Talk about some of your wasting and your cascades and how that all factors in?
What we did was, since we were a conventional plant before, after this process was started, we cleaned out both lagoons and got rid of all the lime. That is beneficial for the farmers. They actually were able to apply that to the fields, because when you have the row crops, corn, soybeans, it actually strips the alkalinity out of the soil. The lime actually puts the alkalinity back.
Sure. I put lime on my lawn.
Yeah, it's beneficial for the farmers. Well, this, since we changed, we blend together the UF backwashes, the pressure filter backwashes. Every time we clean the membranes, everything. The sludge that we would clean out of these, it would be more of a landfill application. Since we started this process, really, we don't get a lot of buildup in there.
You have some restrictions on when you can pull out of the river based on its level, correct?
Well, our limit is 4.5 million gallons. And they base that, the EPA bases that on the low river times.
Okay.
That way you don't dry the river up, basically.
Right.
Now, and put that in perspective, our 74 plant, we were allowed to grab 6 million gallons out of the river.
Gotcha.
So they actually derated us on how much.
Yeah.
Now, if we go up over the 7 million gallons, what the EPA is going to make us do is, since we're capped on the river, we're going to have to put in an up-ground reservoir, which we do have in the works to put in, which they're very, very expensive. But
Gotcha.
That's how we would go over the 7, because right now, the way the plant is set up, we would go up in surface water, not groundwater.
Gotcha.
Everything ahead of here is agricultural. So we have a lot of agricultural runoffs. And we have a lot of organics left in our finished water, which we struggled when the old plant, the last 3 quarters it was in operation, we were in violation for THMs, which is disinfection byproducts. When chlorine comes in contact with the organics, it forms those disinfection byproducts. So that was the other reason why with this plant we have the surface water and groundwater. The surface water goes through all the settling that a normal conventional plant goes through, and then 100% goes through the UF, and then 95% of it goes through an RO. After it goes through that RO, that takes care of the other things, the organics, to where we don't have any issues with THMs, HAAs, that kind of thing. And some of the other things that came about since then was like PCPs, the PFAS. The RO will take that out too. Now,
And your RO is what, nanofiltration?
we call it, and originally was nanofiltration, but actually the filters that we have in place are actually tight enough to be ROs. Our discharge permit, it was one of the first in the state that the EPA granted. It's a tiered permit. So what that means is we have a USDA gauging station just up from the plant that's indirectly tied into the SCADA, as you know. And anytime there's 80 CFS or more flow in the river, basically there's enough dilution in the river that we can discharge, and it's not going to be harmful to any aquatic life or anything like that. As the river flow goes down, the SCADA automatically controls how much can go in the river. We reused the original water line that was put in the ground in 1890 as a carrier pipe to our sewer. So we still can put some in the river, but some goes to the sewer. So it does work out because those are normally dry times. So as we're putting water in the sewer, it's not really going to hurt the wastewater plant because their INI is really, really low in the dry times. So it's really cool that we were able to reuse that, because it took a 2.5-year litigation battle to get that discharge permit, because the surface water wanted us to put a pipe from here to the wastewater plant. And they said, that way you could just intermix it in with the wastewater. You're talking $35 million.
Yeah.
It was more than what the city paid for all the improvements, which was right around $32 million. Finally, the surface water manager, the leader at the time, he came in and he got the guys going, listen, we got to get this going. They're not going to do anything detrimental to the river, and they just wanted to protect this scenic.
Absolutely.
And we don't want to do anything to the river either.
And ecology is a big thing in a lot of people's mind. And Calvin was asking about that. This is very interesting to him. What goes into the lagoons? What's going into the environment?
As it goes down, when we get down to 5 CFS in the river, which is not very often, basically all the water is discharged to the wastewater plant, and none's going into the river because the river flow is so low out there that we don't want to be detrimental to any of the aquatic life or anything like that, or mussels or anything like that. And, you know, those are the kind of things that, you know, the EPA's actually seen a lot of things in the river here, the mussels and stuff that hasn't been around since the early 1900s. So, you know, it's not like we're doing anything harmful to the river or anything like that. But, yeah.
You know, just a plug for Data Command when he's talking about that. We actually use our Data Command product to monitor a device that's miles upstream, owned by, I believe, NOAA, maybe? It's not theirs. We monitor that. We pull that information, send it up to Data Command so they can see it on Data Command, and then we transfer that data to their plant so their plant can know when they can discharge and shut off their pipes. So that's all. That particular item is all handled through Data Command.
Yeah, that's a USGS gauging.
USGS, okay. Yeah. Well, that handles us pretty much from start to finish, went through the way. So we'll do a detailed tour of the plant with Brian, did you say? Or
it would be Brian or Brant.
Yeah, one of their two operators.
Or could even be Kurt or Jim. I don't know who'll be around, but definitely grab one of those guys, you know, and they can show you around.
We'll do that. Thank you, Tom. Appreciate it.
Thank you.